So I was looking at the Warbonnet website at underquilt protectors. My wife, who is a great sewer, she made a prototype, and then she said, so I'll teach you how to make the next one so you can make it any way you want. So to make the pattern, we measured the hammock while it was hanging up. It's 39 5/8. Got about 28 inches. It's about 78 inches. I've put some masking tape on the spreader bar, and I've marked out divisions from the center line to the end, and now I'll just measure down. So I'm laying on gift wrapping paper, and hopefully you can see there's a grid pattern on the back of this like it's giant graph paper. And I'll use a flexible piece of material, in this case a piece of PVC pipe, or I could use a straight grained knot-free strip of wood. You want to set the weights out past the ends of where your pattern will be so it doesn't interfere with the marking. And you take your magic marker, trace the curve. So I'm using a strip of balsa wood here. I've added more depth to the head end of my underquilt protector than the head of the hammock has, so that this hangs down loosely underneath it. There's the pattern for the head of our underquilt protector. The fabric I'm using is called Ion. I got it from Dutchwaregear.com. It's calendared, which means it's run through high pressure rollers at a high temperature, and that makes it resistant to wind penetration and down penetration. And it's lightweight. It's 1.1 ounces per square yard, and it's 20 denier. This is a very slippery fabric, so I'm going to be pinning quite close together, no more than a foot apart, about 30 centimeters at most. Now we pull the pins out, put this aside. Now we just have to cut the sides. Those will be easy because they are straight rectangles. So the next step is to pin the first side to the bottom. And I should have said before, leave the sides a little bit long, a couple inches, 5 or 6 centimeters, so that when you pin around the curve, you don't end up with the sides shorter than the bottom. I have the fabric laid out with the shiny side down for both pieces. That will be the outside of my underquilt protector. You want the pins to be perpendicular to the edge. After sewing the parts together, the next step is to run it through a serger, which will trim the rough edge and stitch over it to make sure it doesn't unravel. If you don't have a serger, you can set your sewing machine to zigzag and run it along that edge. Take in this case, the foot end, fold it in half to find the center, and put a pin in the center exactly so to mark it. Take the matching end of the underquilt, and the head and the foot end are different. Again, fold this in half, line them up and pin them together. Again, making sure the shiny side matches up against the shiny side. So with it pinned, that's what it looks like.
What we're going to do now is we're going to take this extra fabric, we're going to take a fold about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. We're going to hold it with our thumb. We're going to bend the fabric to the center and bring it back so that those centers line up. You're going to pin it. So again, so your centers are touching. You're then going to come back over here and catch the fold and the inner and outer piece and pin it. Okay, we still have leftover fabric, and we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take a little fold so that the top of this pleat, and we're going to use all of our leftover fabric. And that will give you a total of 4 pleats, 2 on one side of the center, 2 on the other side.
This is going to be a little harder. I'm going to give myself more room along the edge because there's a lot of fabric bunched up. And again, this is really slippery stuff. I'm going about 20 millimeters, a little more than 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to put the other end on the underquilt protector now, same way I did the first one. So the next step is to serge all the way around the top boat My wife took pity on me because this fabric is not for beginners and it's really hard to sew. So she is going to sew the channel all the way around the top for the shock cord to go through. It's about a 1-inch fold over, and then at each of the corners where the seams come together at the head and the foot, she'll stop about 1 inch from the seam to leave the gap for the shock cord to come out of.
Okay, here's our corner.
So we'll take a safety pin, run it through the shock cord, and then kind of holding the safety pin pinched between my thumbs, and then using my index finger and my middle finger to squeeze that fabric along, coming up to the corner. Keep those. Put a cord lock on each corner. Get a clip like that to keep the ends from pulling out, keep them nice and neat.
Okay, so you cut your loops so they're about 4 inches. They're made, this is twill tape. You can use twill tape or you can use Grosgrain ribbon. Either one is fine. The easiest way to do this to keep it from fraying is to make your loop first. And then we're going to flip it inside out so that that seam is buried. So we're just going to fold it in half and just sew the bottom. We go right to our corner, right on that seam. We're going to lift that up just a little bit, and we're going to just stitch this right in there.
So here we have the underquilt protector that we made with the ion fabric, which is a 1 to 1.1 ounce per square yard fabric. Here's a 12-ounce soda can, 355 milliliters. And here's our prototype underquilt protector. This was made out of a generic ripstop nylon we got from a fabric store. I think that was 1.9 ounces per square yard. This one was 166 grams, 165 grams now. And this one is 313. I bet if I throw that up there it'll be 314. So that shows what a huge difference your fabric choice makes in the weight and bulk of your gear. So the goal here was to make something that would hang down underneath the underquilt far enough so that it wouldn't touch the underquilt, and I don't feel it touching anywhere under there, but not drag on the ground. The saddlebag hangs down inside the underquilt there pretty nicely. I just dropped my phone into it, and that's okay. But I think I could also put it on the outside. Put my phone in that. And that's interesting because I wonder if that would actually help protect that gap from any wind getting in there. Here's what it looks like inside the hammock. I have to say thank you to my wife. I love you, honey.